The name of a new location on Azeroth. Confirmations of things we've suspected for a long time. Lore that, on our live show, did not make the ever-suspicious Matt angry. That's an achievement. So today, I'm going to take you on a journey through some fun new data mined in-game books, which, at least a few of which, are going to be found in Uldaman, which is of course going to ship with pre-patch. This, honestly, is some fun lore in the tradition of what I loved delving into during the Legion expansion. But that's not all we're delving into. Today's sponsor, nordvpn.com/Bellular Gaming, which is available at my link with 4 months free and the 30-day money-back guarantee. They've even got a new bundle that includes NordPass, which handles your passwords conveniently and securely. And the likes of that is great to have because it protects you against things like credential stuffing attacks. Obviously, the VPN itself offers loads of protection too. As an example, by encrypting your web traffic, it hinders man-in-the-middle attacks. Of course, you also can browse the internet as if you are anywhere, meaning you can indeed bypass regionally locked content. You can even save money via regional pricing differences on things if you want to have some fun. Here's a fun one. You're on a holiday and you just realized you needed a rental car? Well, VPN to your home country, book the rental car, and there's a good chance you'll actually bypass super extortionate pricing. So, the app and the browser extension are all super easy to use, and you can get those 4 months for free at nordvpn.com/Bellular Gaming, of course, with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So, thanks to Nord for supporting this video, for supporting our team. And with that said, let's talk about some more Dragonflight stuff. There are 4 lore books, right? Progress Report Uldoris is the Keeper tier, reporting back his progress. We've got Edicts of the Prime Designate, volume 724, which is Odin laying down the law and revealing some eyebrow-raising facts. To My Staunchest Allies is yet another message from Tyr. And finally, Wreckage Analysis Report. Ooh, that's something. Remember, Titans are beings of order in the Warcraft universe. That is their MO. They order shit. In Wrath of the Lich King, we saw Titan systems get ready to reset our planet, literally wiping out all life. That is something that Blizzard have had in WoW canon since Wrath, right? So the Titans, they're pretty singular in their aims, and they have been allies of ours, but obviously only when we share goals. But most importantly, remember, the Titans, they're massive, planet-sized, godlike beings who absolutely will feel above us. Think about this. Aenar, the life binder. She binds life. I mean, I always thought that was a tad suspicious, so with that in mind, let's go. Here we learn that Tyr is leading Uldoris, a Titan facility that contains the Halls of Infusion. I suppose much like how Uldum housed the Halls of Origination. That's an installation that, if activated, would re-originate the world, destroying all life. Essentially, a reset button. The idea is that if the old gods were ever so much of a problem again that the planet was too corrupted, the observer Algalon would be summoned. He would conduct an analysis, and if the world was beyond saving, then that doomsday machine would in fact be used. So these Halls of Infusion are pretty different to the Halls of Origination, though. They serve a different purpose. We learn that they imbue Order magic, which I just presume is arcane, into something called the Wellspring. Now, you would immediately think that's just the Well of Eternity, and that's what the Titans called it. Now, Tyr informs Loken, another Titan Keeper, that the halls are beginning to reduce levels of contamination. So, presumably, from their perspective, helping Azeroth recover from the Black Empire. Tyr wishes Loken well on his investigation into how Yogg-Saron was able to compromise this wellspring. Now, of course, Loken is a character that you'll know from Wrath of the Lich King. He eventually would fall to the whispers of Yogg-Saron, causing him to betray his kin and weave a false narrative that we would fall into during Wrath. Now, what's fascinating is Tyr's final line. In the meantime, we can be assured that the evolution of another Galakrond will not be triggered by consuming unfiltered water. Now, this was fascinating to me. It shows us that maybe Galakrond was a victim of this, well, Yogg-Saron corrupted, infused water. And that is fascinating because there's a sort of unliving element to how Galakrond's victims would basically rise up as undead, but they would seemingly do so in a way wholly unconnected to all the Shadowlandsy stuff that we've seen. Now, you'll of course remember Yogg-Saron, who referred to himself as the god of death.
Cower before my true form! Bow down before the god of death!
And funny enough, that's not the last time we'll hear about Yogg today. Always fun to have him back. Okay, read on, and we find that this purified water, if ingested or absorbed by eggs, would keep even the most willful dragons aligned with the Titans' philosophies. So yes, they're putting chemicals in the water that are making the frickin' dragons, order. That's quite something. The Titans are somewhat placed as manipulators of Azeroth's life in pursuit of their goal, a goal that of course is control over Azeroth, which we've known for ages, but also much like how we've seen Fel, Void, and more seek to control her. Tyr mentions Proto-Dragon resistance and his plan to bring them in line. And that's almost certainly him referring to the Primalists, who are the dragons, the drakes, that reject all of this Titan business, and they think Galakrond was a pretty good thing. So we absolutely see a Tyr that is committed to order, including to the point of actual frustration that the dragons are calling the Titan installation of Uldorus Tyrhold in his honor. Of course, the dragons are calling it that because Tyr worked alongside the dragons to defeat Galakrond, so the dragons obviously like Tyr. But there we have it, Uldorus. First mentioned by Mother towards the end of Battle of Azeroth is in fact Tyrhold, the Titan facility of the Dragon Isles. Now, if Tyr is felt a bit above everyone and, a bit weird, do remember this is him talking with his equals about what he will kind of consider to be lesser beings just because of who he is, what he is. The more friendly Tyr that we know of surfaces at the end, though, noting his fervent disagreement with Odin over the dragon aspects. Thinking that after the dragon aspects helped him defeat Galakrond, Tyr basically thinks they're great, and that they will share the Titan goal of keeping Azeroth structured and disciplined. Now, Odin hated this whole dragon business, right? Odin's a real prick. This led to him forming the Valajar, and essentially rage quitting. He sent his chunk of Ulduar up into the skies. That's the place that we would come to know as the Halls of Valor. So, it's all fascinating stuff, but guess what? The hits don't stop coming, so let's go and visit Odin's 742nd edict. This edict is all about Odin dealing with one big problem: mortals and what to do with them. For while these mortals may be nice, think about it, many of them are the result of the curse of flesh. That comes from Yogg-Saron. Yogg-Saron, who, kind of maybe created some Galakrond. Curse of Flesh created mortals, and in many cases from a more pure and ordered stone or metal Titan descended form. So Odin is obviously suspicious of these mortals, but we learn that he actually holds back from destroying the mortals because he thinks they may be useful. Indeed, fallen mortals would end up filling the ranks of his Valajar, right? So he, in this document, establishes the ground rules of how Titan keepers and their subordinates deal with mortals, and these are something. Number 1, all records of Black Empire achievements are to be purged, and it will forevermore be painted as an age of chaos and misery. Odin thinks that with the old gods confined, mortals will never find evidence to the contrary. And this, in a way, is massive, but it's also vague, and it's good that it's vague, because you don't want to overcommit to this one. Obviously, we have no idea what the Black Empire was really like. We've seen glimpses of things. We've seen a glimpse of Ny'alotha. Ny'alotha was obviously based off some Black Empire art that first surfaced in Warcraft Chronicle. But the point is, whatever this is, I mean, you could go really far and you could say that the portrayal that we saw in Warcraft Chronicle, this is a bit 8D whatever, but the version of it that we see painted in Warcraft Chronicle is in fact the Titan orthodoxy on what they are, because Blizzard have, unfortunately made it so that Chronicle is the, like, Azerothian and therefore default a bit order-leaning perspective on how things are. So they could make it so that art that we've all seen of the Black Empire is the Titan lie, and the Black Empire was actually a bit different. Or it could be that the Black Empire was all that ghastly shit, because let's be real, old gods, a lot of flesh, a lot of maws, pretty disgusting, but maybe it did achieve something. Sure, that makes sense. They had goals, right? So I think it was almost certainly a pretty gnarly, weird place, but perhaps somewhat more advanced than we would think. I mean, hell, Aman'Thul created the Well of Eternity when he reached down from the stars to rend Yasharj from Azeroth's flesh. That then makes me think that when he did that, that created the wound that basically is the Well of Eternity. Is that wound the wellspring that Tyr mentioned earlier? And if so, did the Titans always plan to access Azeroth and infuse her with order magic through that? Who knows? I mean, funnily enough, there is actually a Black Empire era scenario in the Dragonflight expansion files, so we might actually soon see what Odin wanted to hide. Why put this in a book, in-game, if it's not going to be relevant? Odin's second and third rules then. Attribute all accomplishments to the Titans alone, and teach mortals nothing of the first ones. This is our first, and I think so far only reference to the first ones in Dragonflight. And I think this all makes sense, right? Create a version of reality that allows for maximum control over mortals. This is something that has been used by those in power for all of time, be they Titans or, of course, humans from the planet Earth. So, hardly really a surprise if you actually try to delve into the details of what these people would actually be like. Odin then continues, mortals could not conceive of the wonders these beings granted to the Titans in Zereth Ordis, and learning of the progenitors would only confuse them. I suppose that did kind of happen, didn't it? So what was gifted to the Titans? What is their charge? Those are the big questions. Odin then doubles down on Order's importance. He essentially threatens to kill anyone who will cause further dissent on this issue of the mortals, and he ends by saying, life is chaos, it must be controlled. Now this is interesting because life is described as a fairly insidious force from the perspective of death in those, the Nathrezim infiltration documents that we were reading about 2 years and 2 months ago from when you see this video. But life, it's one of the forces, whatever, that we know not that much about, but I think we should think back to the intro of today's video. Aenar, the life binder, a binder of life. Now, if Elune is the Winter Queen's sister, equivalent on the side of life, but Aenar is a Titan who bound life, then what bargain did Elune and Aenar strike? Because in the Antorus raid, where do we find Aenar? We find her in a world called Elunaria. Elune. What the hell's going on? Is Aenar the reason why we've historically seen a low amount of direct action from Elune? Who knows? All quite something. Odin, of course, being a prick is nothing new. It is in line with actual depictions of, Norse myth Odin. And if you want to dive a bit more deeply in how he's so much of a prick, check out this video we did around this time last year. All right, on to the next revelations. Yet another letter from Tyr. Tyr works out Loken's treachery, but he leaves this message with a sentinel called Talondras, who also is carrying the Discs of Snorganon. Now, these are basically just a special artifact that catalogs Azeroth's history. He also is carrying another disc, one that's containing Tyr's memories. Now, we learn that a gift has been left with the dragon aspects, way back in Valdrakken. But the true purpose of this gift has not been revealed to the dragons. Just that the recipients of this letter, Archidaeus and Ironara, who are actually these, like, watchers that we meet in vanilla in Uldaman, that they will know what to do with whatever this gift is that's been left with the dragons. That's mostly it. Blizzard's goal here is obviously to fill in some of that dragon backstory because there's like thousands of years that are completely blank. They are now fleshing out a little bit more of the story of Tyr's demise, and that is a story that in many ways we have known of for a long time. And our final letter is also something quite different. This one is from a Watcher to Odin, and it confirms that an expedition they sent to somewhere called Avaloran failed, and that there were no survivors. We learn that this is the third such failure, and we learn that this place is full of heretics, and those heretics are so strong that they could not readily be defeated by Odin's forces without expending so many forces that they would actually risk their core job of prisoner containment with the old gods, or the primal designates, or I guess both. Of course, the primal designates are the anti-Titan dragons who serve as the initial villain in Dragonflight. Avalorn, then. So that's a new name. Now, is Avalorn their name for the Dragon Isles? I mean, if so, that would be kind of odd. Uldoris is built there, and the Isles weren't lost, so why would you need to send an expedition to the Dragon Isles, where that expedition could fail because the Dragon Isles are full of heretics? Although I suppose it could just be that, this chronologically happens after the other letters, so perhaps at some sort of stage where the Dragon Isles have been lost? Maybe? Or Avalorn could be something else. Now, Avalorn, of course, sounds rather similar to Avalon, the mythical island of Saxon myth that you may recognize from Arthurian legend. It's an island said to be to the west of Ireland and hidden in mists by Morgan Le Fay, half-sister of King Arthur. Quite something. I wonder then if there's more to dive into here. I mean, Morgan sort of having like good and evil features heavily in those tales, so I kind of wonder what the true nature of these heretics is. Like, are they actually bad? Are they just against the Titans? Also, if expeditions to this Avalorn place fail, then that actually lines up with some WoW lore fantastically. All ships that sail east of east or west of west do not return. Why? I don't know, maybe this is Dragon Isles patch content or something like that. I mean, they did drop the name Dragon Isles in a piece of dialogue at the start of Battle for Azeroth, so it wouldn't be a crazy thing for them to do here. Now, what have we learned then? Well, we've learned that Avalorn exists. It may be a new location. It may just be a Titan name for the Dragon Isles. We've learned that the Titans here are clearly being framed as very singular in their goal of order and discipline across the cosmos, which is, of course, something that we knew before. But this just gives us a little bit of the rubber hitting the road, right? We're basically reading their DMs. And when you read the DMs of beings greater than yourself, should you be surprised that they maybe talk about you in a way where you wouldn't really talk about yourself? I think that's what they're going for here. Now, before anyone gets a hit of Shadowlands-esque rage, which I actually do totally understand, I would just say, listen to this Algalon quote from Wrath of the Lich King.
I have seen worlds bathed in the Maker's flames, their denizens fading without so much as a whimper. Entire planetary systems born and raised in the time that it takes your mortal hearts to beat once. Yet all throughout, my own heart devoid of emotion, of empathy, I have felt nothing. A million lives wasted. Had they all held within them your tenacity? Had they all loved life as you do? Perhaps it is your imperfection, that which grants you free will, that allows you to persevere against all cosmically calculated odds. You prevail where the Titan's own perfect creations have failed.
So yeah, Titans being cold and uncaring, that is ultra established in the Warcraft canon in 2009. Now, another thing that's interesting to me is time and fate. We learn when we're fighting Elisande, who could scry into the future, that the timelines around us are hazy because she could see no timeline in which we defeated her, yet we did defeat her. Fate is also spun throughout the Shadowlands. It seems that we're the ones who are a bit more able to break fate or something like that. So who knows? Did Odin see our potential as mortals? I mean, you've got the Eye of Aman'Thul, one of the pillars of creation that we recovered in Legion. Now, that had the powers of space and time stuff, just as Aman'Thul, leader of the Titans, did. So, did Odin see that we're special somehow? Do we flawed mortals, in fact, carry the strengths of each cosmic force? You know, do we have the sheer, strength of the forces of order, but also the creativity and open-mindedness of the void, and maybe that makes us special? Does fate bend around our actions, perhaps as flawed beings, not so directly set up by the first ones as all these big pantheons of things have been? There's a hell of a lot here, basically, and whenever we next meet the Titans, we're going to have a lot of questions. And this is my takeaway note for Blizzard. Blizz, you've got to have our characters and the characters in-game actually reflect this knowledge, because these notes that I've talked through today, our characters literally find them. And that means that if our characters or our allies do not ask the relevant people what's up about this stuff, and we just constantly do very short-sighted, very silly things that we probably wouldn't do if we were actually acting based on this knowledge, then that won't feel good. That'll feel like a bit of a break in immersion, Characters should ask questions where it makes sense. So, finding this ancient knowledge, I think that the mortals of Azeroth had better grill the dragons, because they obviously played a role in all of this. Honestly, I'll say I think there is great potential here. I generally do enjoy this kind of stuff. For me, though, I like the expansive, intricate world building, but it needs to be carried forward by a vehicle of just simple, very strong A-plot, right? That's what Legion did successfully. Big, expansive world building, far more reasonable A-plot that was more just focused on cool, big moments that pushed the setting forward. So, a lot of lore of, Titan's good, light good, simple as. If it was all just that and things never changed, that would be really dull, right? So I'm happy with there being a bit more texture to the Titans, a bit more, is there not necessarily a sinister element, but what happens if we fall on the wrong side of their math? That is good to me, right? We're fleshing them out more, and also it's in line with established lore. But what's important then is for Blizzard to actually deliver on the promise of that world building in-game. That is what the Legion expansion was able to do with a simple story and the core character motivations for characters like Velen basically making sense. And the issue then is that BFA and Shadowlands did not successfully do that stuff with their A-plot. So this is a great promise, meaning it's time for Blizzard to show us that they can actually have it. And there you go. Big old expansion of the lore. Quite something. Of course, if you want to support what we're doing, you can hit up those links down below. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your thoughts and speculations are, and I'll see you next time.